Hello everybody, hope everybody's doing well. Today we're going to be talking about choosing the best grass seed for your lawn. And really what I'm talking about is actually looking at the grass seed and determining what you need. As fall approaches, but really any time of the year, if you're thinking about putting down grass seed, you really need to know what type of grass you're going to use, and also is the grass seed that you're purchasing a good grass seed. And there's a little bit of education that goes behind that, and something that I've learned over the years that I want to kind of hopefully give you some more information about, so when you go to purchase grass seed, you're fully educated on everything that you need to know. It's difficult when, especially in the fall season, but even in the spring, and even throughout the summer, you hear lots of commercials about, we carry the best grass seed, or you gotta try this new grass seed, or there's all of these different commercials, and it can be confusing, especially if you go into a store and there's 4 or 5 or 10 or 15 different types of grass seed and you're not quite sure what to get. And so that's what I'm gonna do today, is inform you on what you need to know so that when you go to purchase grass seed, that you are purchasing the right grass seed for what you want, but also the best quality and what the results will be for you if you purchase correctly. And so that's really what we're going to talk about. And to do that, we first need to decide what kind of grass we're going to grow. Here in the Hampton Roads area, we're in a transition zone. Now, this isn't true across the country. More in the northern states, you're going to be kind of in the fescue and bluegrass country. And then when you go south, you're more in the warm season grasses. Now, here in the Hampton Roads area and throughout the middle part of America, we're going to be in a transition zone, which means you can do both. And that's a great thing. It's amazing that you can actually plant St. Augustine or Bermuda or zoysia or centipede. Those are your warm season lawns. Or you can plant fescue for your cool season lawns. We're not quite cool enough in this area to really get away with bluegrass. Bluegrass is really, for a cooler portion of the country. Of course, you think of like Kentucky, the bluegrass state, and then Pennsylvania, you start to get more bluegrass. And bluegrass is a gorgeous grass, but here in our area, it typically burns up in the summer, and so we consider it kind of a weed. A lot of people, you might hear the word poana, and poana is actually bluegrass. So here in the Hampton Roads area, which I'm specifically going to talk about today, is really the fescue for the cool season. And then in the warm season is going to be centipede, zoysia, Bermuda, and St. Augustine. Now there's also ryegrass. Ryegrass is something that you might put over top of your warm season grass. The only one that we don't recommend overseeding would be zoysia. And there are hundreds and hundreds of details that I can go into about how to grow the best lawn. I've done webinars on them before in the past, so you want to go back and check those out. I've gone into warm season lawns, I've gone into cool season lawns. We do in-person seminars here throughout the fall season, which is when we recommend planting grass seed. And I'll talk a little bit about that here at the end of this webinar. But really what I want to talk about is the grass seed, because that is, what you're really kind of investing in is your lawn, and the grass that you're going to grow is what's in that bag of grass seed. So the first thing you got to determine is what type of grass seed you're going to grow. Now, currently we're approaching the fall season, so we're talking really a lot about fescue. Fescue is the best time, or fall is the best time to grow a fescue lawn. Now, if you're thinking about growing a summer lawn, good grass seeds as well. Bermuda, zoysia, and centipede you can grow from grass seed. St. Augustine you typically are going to grow from plugs. Not that it doesn't seed, and not that you couldn't find some seed, but it's usually very expensive and the germination rate is typically not very good. So zoysia, Bermuda, and centipede are your warm season grasses. And when you go purchase a bag of grass seed of those, just kind of do a little bit of research. Of course, I always am going to recommend checking out your local garden centers. If you're in our neck of the woods and you want to grow a summer lawn from grass seed, come and check us out, typically in that March-April time frame, because you'll be a little bit ahead of the game, and that's a great time to come in and talk to us and get a little bit more education on those specific types of grasses. Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit more heavier on the cool season grass, which is fescue, because there's a lot of changes going on in your bags of grass seed when it comes to fescue. And I think it's important to kind of know those things. So the next thing I want to talk about is, after we've determined what type of grass we're going to grow, because that's important when you go into the store, whether you're coming to our garden center or going to a big national chain. Wherever you might be going to buy grass seed, it's important to know which type you're going to get. And also knowing the time of the year. So as I mentioned, cool season grasses, fescues, you want to plant in the fall. You can maybe get away with it in the spring. But summer grasses, warm season grasses, you want to plant when the temperatures in the soil are warmer. And so that means if you go in right now to a bigger national chain store, you might see Bermuda grass, you might see zoysia grass, but it's not the right time to plant it. So know the type of grass that you want, do a little bit of research on what type of seed you're actually seeking, and make sure you purchase the right one. And I'll get a little bit more into detail in that on a second. So let's talk a little bit real quick about local versus national. So of course, the national chains and the national seed companies are very good companies. I mean, they wouldn't be around if they weren't. So we're talking about Scotts and Pennington and Stay Green and a lot of different ones. There's a whole slew of them. Very, very good companies. But what you have to understand is they're trying to sell to the entire country or very large portions of the country. So you'll see a lot of like Southern Gold or Southern Blends and different things like that. And that is great for the South, but they're trying to cover the entire South. So what I love about local is local garden centers like McDonald Garden Center, but really any local garden center is gonna know what grass seed grows best in your specific area. We're not selling to the entire country. We're selling to our specific area. And that's why it's so important to carry or to think about those things and make a decision on your own. Definitely national chains and national grass seed companies have been around for a long time. They put a lot of money and energy and time into researching their grasses and doing promotions and things like that. But I would recommend that you compare and contrast. Go to your local garden center and check them out and see what information you might get from them, because you might learn a little bit something more hyper specific to your exact zone and your exact growing conditions. And so here in the Hampton Roads area, we deal with a pretty clay-based soil. We know that we don't have as much organic matter in the soil, so we're gonna recommend a couple different things there. And then of course, when it comes to the grass seed, we know what's gonna do the best in the area. And for the most part, we've tested or we've looked at test results that pertain to that grass seed. So again, we'll get into a little bit about that now. So choosing the best grass seed, difficult thing. Lots and lots of things out there to kind of go through and look at, and there's tons and tons of options out there. As I mentioned, you hear lots and lots of commercials about different types of grass seed. Whenever you turn on the radio, or you might even see them on TV, or they're sponsoring the NFL football games or whatever it might be. But it's important to kind of know what's in the grass seed. And so the first thing that you're going to do when you buy a bag of grass seed is you're going to look at the label. So here's our grass seed. And I'm going to pull up a full-size screen here in a minute. But this is our McDonald grass seed blend, our tall fescue blend. And it's important to kind of know the difference between blend and mixture. Now, sometimes you might see on our bag it says mix or blend. It doesn't really matter for semantics reasons, but a blend is going to be all the same type of grass. A mix is going to have different types of grasses. So a blend would be like 3 different types of fescue, like ours. A mixture might have some ryegrass or some different types of grass, bluegrass in it. And those are what you want to kind of be careful of and just do some education and do some little bit of research and know what you're buying. And so, but the most important thing is on all bags of grass seed, you're going to see this white label. And they're all of them. Sometimes it's going to be a sticker like this. Sometimes it's actually built into the bag. But it's important to always look at that label. And a lot of times, people will hide it a little bit, or it'll be very, very small type. It's basically the ingredients up to what's in your grass seed. So I'm going to show you some blow-ups of these two. I went and purchased a bag of grass seed from a national company, nothing bad. It's great grass seed, and we'll talk about it here in a minute. But first I want to show you the label of our grass seed. So this is our McDonald Tall Fescue blend. It's a 5-pound, but we carry 10 pounds and 20 pounds as well, so we carry big ones. I just took a snapshot of this label so we can look a little bit closer at what the label tells us. The label is super, super important, and like I said, every single bag of grass seed should have one. If it doesn't have a label, do not buy the grass seed because you don't know what's in it. And this label, this little label, is required by the state of Virginia. So it is required that it is on there. And it's really required pretty much across the country. You're also going to get a lot of good information off this label, and that's what we're going to go through now. So the first thing that it's going to tell you is usually the size or a lot number, not super important, but what you're going to see under there and what you'll see kind of right over there is the types of grass seed. And you're going to see in ours, it's a 32.5% even ratio all the way across all 3 different types of tall fescue. The first one is going to be Valkyrie Tall Fescue. The second one's Avenger 2 Tall Fescue. And the third one is Titanium GLS Tall Fescue. Now, you might say, what does that mean? Well, there's lots and lots of varieties of tall fescue. There's thousands and thousands, and they're always being tested, and people are trying to come up with new ones. And a lot of times you'll see like LS in that titanium GLS, that's lateral spread, which means they're trying to form a tall fescue that will actually spread some. Now that would take a lot of time, and usually really what you're talking about there is you're getting a good lateral spread on the root system, and eventually we're hoping that maybe fescues will start to actually be able to be spreading grasses. As I mentioned at the beginning, warm season grasses like zoysia, Bermuda, St. Augustine, centipede, all of those are spreading grasses, which is why they use them for football fields and golf courses, because you can take a chunk out of it and it'll actually spread back in and fill in the hole. Now the downfall is it'll spread into your flower beds, it'll spread across your driveway, and some people just don't like the look of it. But when it comes to fescue, they are working to try and get to a nicer look, a very good disease resistance, deep root system, drought tolerance, all of those good things, but they're also working to try and get some spread. But don't worry so much about that. What I would say here is with our grass seed, this label, it is a very even ratio. It's a completely even ratio of all three different types of grass. Now, why we do that is because we recommend that because if something happens, let's say 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road, let's say Valkyrie all of a sudden gets a disease. And so, but the other ones, Avenger and Titanium, are disease resistant to it. So you're only going to lose a third of your lawn. You're not going to lose all of your lawn. So that's why usually we like to sell blends, because you're going to get a good blend, you're going to get a lot of more attributes, and all of our grasses are tested here locally as well as in Virginia Tech at the Cooperative Extension. So you get these local test results. We go and review those test results. You can actually go look them up. You just go on to Google and type in Virginia Cooperative Extension fescue, and they'll pull up a PDF of all of the different types of grasses that are tested in this area. They test them in Virginia Beach as well as across the state, but definitely in Virginia Tech. And all of those test results are pulled together, and basically they say, here's some of the best grasses, and they have a top tier, a category 1 rated list of all of the best grasses, and all three of ours are always on that top tier. So it's really important to kind of know that and do a little bit of research. So that's the first thing you're going to look at is all the different types of tall fescue. Then you're going to see on there the germination rate. 85%. That's a very high germination rate. That's a very kind of standard across the country, that you typically are going to get somewhere between 80 and 90% germination rate, 85%. So that basically means 85 seeds out of 100 should germinate under normal growing conditions, watering, all of those great things. And then of course over in that little side you'll see, and I didn't quite grab it in that image, you'll see origin, which is Oregon, so OR for Oregon, and pretty much most of your grass seeds, especially when it comes to fescue, are going to come out of Oregon. It's a great place to grow fescue, and they can let it seed and then they can harvest it, so it's a great place for that, and that's why you're going to see a lot of them are going to come out of Oregon, but they come out of different parts of the country as well. So the origin tells you where it is. Then there's going to be a test date. You see that tested January 2022. That doesn't mean that the actual seed or the batch of seed was probably tested, but that is a kind of a mark to say that these have been tested in January of 2022, and therefore you know that it's within this year. You typically want your grass seed tested within that year. Now, what it'll also tell you is a sell-by date, sell by April 2023. Now, these labels can change. I will be honest with you. If something doesn't sell by 2023, we're required to put new labels on there. What you will typically see on a new label is the test date will be a newer test date. It'll be probably tested January of 2023. And then you'll have another sell by date, but you'll see the germination rate will go down. Because what we are assuming is that over a year, some of the seed will become less viable. Typically lose 5 to 10%. So that germination rate will change from an 85 to an 80 or an 85 to a 75, somewhere in there. So that's important to kind of know, because sometimes you'll see a label pasted over another type of a label. Typically we sell through all of our fescue within that one season, but that's important to know. Just because if you see another label over top, or if you see a lower germination rate, doesn't mean it's a bad seed, doesn't mean anything's wrong with it. It just means that it might have sat for a little bit of a longer period. So it's just a good little thing. Then you're going to see a couple other things in there. Other crop seed, 0.5%. Other crop seed is just going to be other types of grasses that get mixed in there. So when they're harvesting the seed, it's not going to be perfect. 0.5% is extremely low. Inert matter is 1.9%, or 1.91%. Inert matter is dust. It's debris, it's different little things, and they're tiny, and it's very, very small percentage. 1.91% is a very, very small percentage. 0.09% weed seed is almost non-existent. That means maybe you get one little weed seed in there. So you know that you're getting pure seed. And that's what you'll see from this label, is I am getting completely, almost 100% pure seed, little tiny bit of dust, 1.91% of dust, inert matter, and then tiny percentage of crop seed and weed seed. And that's what you want. You wouldn't want to see crop seed or weed seed content being very high. And then of course down there at the bottom you see the noxious weed seed, none found. That means that you don't have any invasive weeds in that mix. So that's important to know too. So really everything that you need to know about your grass seed that you're purchasing is right there on that label. Take a second and say, hey, Deborah. And then also Darlene said, I wish they would find out how to produce seeds where the grass would only grow about 3 inches and not need mowing. Like most plants have a height, and trees and bushes, why not grass? So Darlene, great question. And a lot of people call zoysia a no-mow lawn, but it does not stop growing, and you do have to mow it, you just don't have to mow it very often. So that would be your best option. Some people are considering in shady spots going to like a dwarf mondo grass, because dwarf mondo grass only gets a certain height. But it's a different type of looking grass. It's not really a lawn type of grass. So yeah, Darlene, in the future, who knows, right? We're trying to find fescues that will spread and different things, and so who knows what the future holds. I know that they're working on it. If somebody ever figured it out, they would be a billionaire for sure, because everybody would want it, because nobody wants to mow their grass, right? But when you have a nice lawn, there's nothing better than probably going out there mowing your grass and getting those nice stripes in there. So Darlene, great comment. But yep, I think we're gonna get there. I don't know when, but someday I'm sure somebody will figure it out. So let me show you the next label. The next label is the one that I went and purchased. And this was just from a chain store. And the reason I had to go purchase this is because we don't sell any seed like this here. And I wanted to kind of show you what you might be getting in your bag. And I know this is very, very small and you might not be able to completely see it. In fact, I might not be able to see it, so I might have to kind of pull up the bag here and read off the label. But I'll do my best. So what you're gonna see here is a little bit different. We've got the seed listing. So there's 3 different types of tall fescue in this mix. And now I'm going to call this a mix because it's got ryegrass in there as well. And you'll see some different types of chewing fescue and a couple other things. But this is a little bit of a longer list. It's a little bit more kind of, oh man, what is in here? And you should be a little bit worried when you see some of those things, or you should be intrigued at least and do a little bit more reading and look over this entire label. So what we're gonna see is, of course, the germination rate. And I'm gonna have to pull up my bag here and just so I can see it and make sure I'm reading it correctly. So the germination rate is basically 85% across the board. There's 80% on the Survivor's Chewings fescue, and that's different. I'll talk about that here in a minute. But we've got 10% the tall fescue, another 10% rebel, and then another 10% another type of tall fescue. So we've got 3 different types of fescue, but they're only 10% each. And then you're gonna look and you're gonna see the 4.15% Stardust perennial ryegrass. So now ryegrass is different. So perennial rye and annual rye, there's 2 different types of ryegrass. Ryegrass is gorgeous, it grows very, very quickly. But in our area, in the Hampton Roads area, it depends on where you live across the country, but in our area, in Hampton Roads, ryegrass is gonna die in the summer. Now perennial ryegrass, typically if you let it get tall enough, will reseed itself, and then it should grow again in the fall. Now the downfall of that is when grasses, like a perennial rye, reseed themselves, then it's not always gonna come back in the exact same spot. It's gonna pop up over here, over there, and you're not gonna get a full lawn. So that's why we don't even sell a perennial rye. We sell annual rye. Annual rye is the best because it will die. We can guarantee it. In the summer it'll die, but a lot of people use it to overseed. And when it dies and when it goes kind of down, when it starts to fall down, as we start to warm up, if you've overseeded, like let's say a Bermuda lawn, then your Bermuda is gonna start to come back while the perennial or the annual rye is dying off. So typically we don't like perennial rye. It does get into some mixes. It's okay, it's not the worst. The downfall is it's a thick grass, it grows very aggressively, and therefore it doesn't allow the fescue to really take place. So I don't love it, it's not my favorite. And then we've got a Survivor Chewings fescue. Now they put a Chewings fescue in there so that they can put a sun and shade mixture. So chewing fescues really are for shade. Now that means that 3.1%, if you're doing this in full sun, that one type of grass is really gonna struggle. So it's important to know that as well. The origin is Oregon, so great place for the seed to come from. Now here's where we get into some of the crazier details, and this is what I really wanted to show you. Is the next one is, of course, 0.6% crop seed, very good. 0.02% weed seed, very good. And then you're gonna see this 55.99% seed coating matter, including fertilizer. So what is that, right? All right, this is where it gets tricky. So when we look at a grass seed and you see a seed coating matter, and then after that, you're even gonna see a 3.58% fertilizer fills. So now I'll show you those in a second because I've opened up the bag. I'm gonna pour some out and we can see it and look at it. But when you see a seed coating on your grass seed, look at the percentage. This one's 55.99%, and then we're gonna throw on another 3.58, so about what? That's 56 plus another 4 almost, so we're at almost 60% of inert matter, other different things. And they even put inert matter as 2.25%, so it's a little bit higher in inert matter, and it's got this seed coating. So we're well over 60% not seed. So that's important to know, because if this says it's 7 pounds, which is what this says, you're not actually getting 7 pounds of grass seed. So we'll pull up the bigger screen here and I'll show you this so you can really kind of understand what I'm talking about. And this is what I really want people to understand, and this is really what I want to educate you on, is when you are getting grass seed, always look at that label. It tells you all of the most important information that you're going to find. But also look at this. This is our 5-pound bag of grass seed. This is a 7-pound bag of grass seed. I don't know how that doesn't make sense to me, because this is 5 pounds, it's bigger. There's more seed here than there is here. So how is this 7 pounds and how is this 5 pounds? Well, that's because of that seed coating. So it's very important to look at that label so that you can see that there's a seed coating on here. Now that's cool, right? I mean, they spend a lot of money putting in the effort into doing that. And basically what you're gonna see, I'm gonna go ahead and scoop some, actually I'm gonna pour some of this out so we can look at it. But what you're gonna see here is the seed's gonna be a different color. So this seed, you can even see it if you look in the bag. Look at that. That does not look like a grass seed that I know. So, not that it's a bad thing, right? So again, these companies are big time companies. They invested a lot of money into this. I'm just educating you that this has extra stuff going on there. So when you go to buy it, it's important to know how many pounds of seed you're getting. So on this bag, it says can seed up to 1,700 square feet. So 1,750 square feet. Well, we can do some math here. We'll get into that here in a little bit, but it's important to see that. And then let's pull some of our grass seed out. Now this is pure grass seed. So not only do we know that in this one, we are getting 7 pounds, but 60% or more is not grass seed. So let's just do some basic math there and say 60% of 7 pounds is gonna be roughly about 3, maybe 3.3 pounds about. So now we've got 3.3 pounds of grass seed compared to 5 actual pounds of grass seed. And that's important to know because a lot of times when you do your lawn, it's gonna say this is how many pounds of grass seed you should put down per 1,000 square feet. I'll talk about spreaders here in a second. It's tricky because, of course, these are not perfectly round grass seeds. But look at the difference there. So there's the difference. Now I can feel a little bit of weight difference here, but as far as volume goes, that is the same amount of grass seed. And this is just a little bit heavier because it's got a coating on it. So when you go to purchase a bag, it's done by weight. And in that 7-pound bag of grass seed, you're actually only getting 3.3 pounds of grass seed. And in this one, you're getting 5 pounds of grass seed, and that's what you want. Now, I will say, this looks cool, right? This looks like, okay, maybe it's got some more water absorption capabilities. You know, there's also these little tiny, you see those little tiny white specks in there? Those are little fertilizer pellets, which we can talk about here in a second. You can apply your own fertilizer. But here's my issue is this has fertilizer sprayed onto it. So basically as the seed goes down the conveyor belt, they're spraying this fertilizer on it. Now, one downfall is if you want to do an organic lawn, you can't do it with this. This is straight grass seed. So if you want to do an organic lawn, you can do it with this. But you can't really do it with this because it's not organic. Now you can transition it to organic and that's completely fine. But when you are doing an organic lawn, you typically want to start organically too. Now, here's the other downfall that I have is whenever I've taught lawn classes or whenever I've done my own lawn, I always say you don't need to fertilize grass seed. Grass seed is living, but it doesn't need fertilizer, right? When does the grass need fertilizer is when it germinates. So now this little bit of fertilizer, which I think is a 300, so a little bit of nitrogen, is basically sprayed onto this. That little bit of nitrogen, what are you going to do to get grass seed to germinate? You're going to water it and water it and water it. So for the next 14 days, 10 to 14 days, maybe 21 days, you're watering once or twice a day. So that little bit of fertilizer is going down into the soil, and will it remain there? Well, typically a little bit of fertilizer doesn't go a very long way. And so in this case, you're probably not going to get a lot of that residual plant food sitting in the soil when this does germinate. So it's really kind of cool looking. It looks like it's going to work, but I don't recommend putting down a fertilizer until the seed germinates, because once the seed germinates and you've actually got a root system and your grass is growing, that means that's when you need to apply food. I'm going to talk about that here in just a little bit, just a short snippet on that. I don't want to go into too much detail. I really just want to educate you on the grass seed. So that's why it's so important to look at your labels and understand that this is pure seed. So when I put down this grass seed, I know I'm putting down 3 different types of tall fescue. It's a great blend, and they've been tested here in the Hampton Roads area. So if you live in the Hampton Roads area, of course, we're trying to sell you our seed. We think it's the best. We want you to be successful. That's what we're talking about. This is not bad. I'm really not trying to bash it. I just want you to understand of what you're getting in the bag. And in the bag of this, you are getting a lot of filler, a lot of fertilizer, a lot of coating, a lot of inert matter. So you're getting a lot of different things. You're actually getting some fertilizer pellets in here. Now, if you go and look and you get a seed patch repair kit, now that's even going to have less seed. And that's typically why you should look at your square footage on your bags. So your square footage on your bag is going to be somewhere around, if this one says 1,700 per square or per 1,000 square feet, 1,700 square feet. So that means that typically that's an overseed rate. And I read the back of the label and it is an overseed rate. A new lawn, you're probably only gonna get about 3, maybe 5, maybe 600 square feet. So you're not gonna get a whole ton of square footage if you're doing a brand new lawn. And so again, we're talking about pure grass seed. And basically what I'm saying is from this one, you're gonna have to buy about 2 of them to really equal this one. So you're spending twice the amount of money because you're getting a little bit of fertilizer, when you can buy a fertilizer separately and apply it yourself when the grass actually needs it. And that's really what I want to talk about, is so you can understand that you really need a little bit more grass seed typically. So I typically recommend somewhere around 3 to 4 pounds per 1,000 square feet for an overseed. So that means that this will do about 1,000 square feet, a little bit more. And then for a new lawn, we're going to almost double that. We're going to go to 8, maybe 10 pounds per 1,000 square feet. So this bag is only going to do about 600 square feet of a new lawn, but we've got bigger bags. So you can get a 20-pound bag and you can get almost 3,000 to 4,000 square feet out of that one 20-pound bag. So that's why it's so important to read your label, understand exactly what's in your bag. And that is really what I want to educate you about, because there's a lot of these out there. I could not find one that didn't have this in there, that didn't have a coating on it. And all I know is ours doesn't, and it never will, because it's the best grass seed and it's designed for this area and it's pure grass seed. And there's nothing better than buying something when you know it's 100% pure. So I see a couple questions. Let me make sure I get those real quick. So I have sections of, so Darlene asked a kind of a follow-up question. I have sections of Shoizo, but it hasn't spread and choked out the weeds. I have someone mow my lawn now because my age and loss of physical ability. Well, Darlene, sorry, but the zoysia will eventually choke it out. It is slow growing, I will tell you. But once you got it, it is the most amazing lawn, and typically no weeds come in, or very, very little. So it's a great, great grass. I say keep going, keep feeding it, keep it moving. Let's see if it can choke out some other things. You might have to do a little bit of hand pulling, get your lawn guy to go out there, maybe do a little sprays or something. We can help you along the way. But zoysia is a great grass. You're on the right track. All right, so Deborah said, should the price of the ones that have a second sticker with the lower germination rate be a lower price? They could be. They're, again, not a bad grass seed, Deborah. It just means that the germination rate is going to go down, and it means it's required. So if you ever see one that's past that sell date and doesn't have a new sticker, then you definitely don't want to buy that grass seed. So that's kind of important to understand, is it might not be cheaper necessarily. It just might be a year older, and that's perfectly fine. The germination rate just should go down, and there should be, and it is required, that the owner of that grass seed, whether it be McDonald Garden Center or whoever, is required to put a new label on that. It means it's been tested again, and that way you have current information on that grass seed. So that's what's so important about that label. It's required, and that is where all the information that you really need to know about what's in the bag is in there. So if you've got something like a coating on it, it could take up half or more of what's actually in the bag. In this case, 60% of what's in here is a coating, pure seed. So that's all I wanted to kind of warn you about. So when you're going out to buy grass seed, and you'll see this a lot on summer grasses too, sometimes you won't. Sometimes it's actually a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. I just always say this little bit of fertilizer that's on here that may or may not even get to the grass when it does germinate is not going to be all it needs. You still need to apply a lawn food, and at least with this, you're getting pure seed, and you know what you're getting, and you know what you're getting in there, and there's not a whole lot of other things. There's not a whole lot of other things going on with it. So you know that when you look at the label, you've got 32.5% of all 3 different types of fescue, and that's about it. There's a little bit of dust, 1.91% of some inert matter. So really, really pure seed is the way to go. At least that's the way that we think it should go. So let me do a little bit about what we recommend here at McDonald Garden Center. And again, I mentioned that I'm strictly kind of talking about fescue grass seed, but it really could be anything. So as you can see right next to me, a picture of those plugs on that cart. Plugs are a great option. We sell plugs. We sell them in the summer season. We really feel like, hey, we've been in Hampton Roads for 75 years. We should know how to grow a good lawn, right? So that's really what we're basing this on, is we've been doing this for such a long period of time, and we've done a lot. Our buyers spend a lot of time investigating and checking out all the different types of fescue blends, or what type of plant food is the best, or how to add organic matter back into our soil. And like I mentioned, we've done lots of webinars. We do in-store seminars on specifically getting into all of the details and hyper specific. But we also do kits, and I want to tell you about some of the kits, because if you're thinking about doing a grass this fall season or any time of the year, it's good to know what we think is kind of the best way. And so real quick, I'll kind of talk about our kit lawn program, and I'll talk a little bit about summer lawns, even though it's not quite the time right now, but you may be watching this 6 months from now, and it will be time. So fescue, we recommend our fescue be done in the fall here in the Hampton Roads area. So that means the grass seed and the fertilizer, the lawn food. And so that's what we've got here, is our lawn food plus iron. In our kit, you get 2 bags of this. I've got another bag right here. So you get 2 bags of lawn food plus iron, and you also get our 20-pound bag of grass seed. So here's our big 20-pound bag of grass seed. So this can basically do an overseed. So it's basically an overseed kit. Now, if you needed to go and do a new lawn, you might go and get another 10-pound or a 5-pound. That's why we sell it all in different sizes, 5, 10s, and 20s. Or you get another 20-pound if you need a little bit more. These cover 5,000 square feet. So you might be saying, why do I get 2 bags of lawn food with this kit? So you put down your grass seed, as I mentioned. You're going to water it till it germinates. And then once it germinates, you're going to put down your lawn food plus iron, because that's when it needs it. So now your grass is growing, it needs food, and we're going to give it to it. So this is what you're going to do, is put down your first bag of lawn food plus iron. You're going to put down your second bag of lawn food plus iron around the Thanksgiving time frame. That's what I always say. It's an easy one to remember. You know, you've eaten a lot, go work off some of that turkey and put down another bag of lawn food. And that is going to be your spring feed. So really, that's what we recommend, is all your fertilizer, all your plant food, all your grass seed care and maintenance is really going into the fall season, because there's a much longer cool time. There's a cooler season, right? We're going into winter, and then we're going to come back into a spring cool season before summer hits. So that means you got the most length of time before summer hits again to get that grass established. And that's when fescue struggles, is in the summer. So we're trying to give it the longest amount of time to get established before summer hits. Now, in the spring, what do we do? What do we recommend? Another kit, a very simple kit. We recommend this Dimension. So Dimension is a weed and grass stopper. It basically prevents, it's a pre-emergent, so it prevents seeds and weeds from germinating. And you get 2 bags of this as well in the spring and a bottle of the weed-free zone, and that basically allows you to kill weeds and prevent weeds basically all of the spring season, even into the summer really a little bit. You might have to do a little bit of extra weed prevention in the summer, but that's our basic 2 kits. I've always said if you do these 2 kits, then you're going to have a great lawn all season long. If you do a little bit more, you'll have an even better lawn. You'll start to make your neighbors really, really envious. But this is a great spring weed control kit, and then our fall lawn grass kit. You do those 2 for a couple years. Eventually, you get to the point where you're just doing this kit in the spring and fall because your fescue looks so good, it's so full, there's not a whole lot of weeds. You're just preventing. So that's really, really kind of our 2 lawn programs. Now in the summer, it's a little bit different because a lot of people in our neck of the woods, at least, are going to St. Augustine, and St. Augustine is an amazing grass. Downfall, you got to do it by plugs. Good news, you get instant gratification. You can plug it, it's going to spread. You don't have to worry about watering to get your seed to germinate. All of those variables that go into getting a seed to germinate. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that today, but if you come in, we can educate you on how you need to water, when you need to water, how much you need to water, all of those great things to get your seed to germinate, and then how to get your seed and your new lawn to acclimate to less water, because that's what we really want. We want to make it drought tolerant. Now, summer grasses are naturally drought tolerant, and that's why a lot of people are going towards them, because Bermuda and zoysia and St. Augustine and centipede are all a little bit more drought tolerant. So zoysia, centipede, and Bermuda can all be done by grass seed. St. Augustine has to be done by plugs, at least in this area. That's what we're going to recommend. And we carry a nice big plug. As you can see in that image over there, that's a tray of plugs. So you're basically getting a piece of sod that's already pre-cut into some plugs. And then that way, all you have to do is just install them right into the ground and they'll start to spread. In this area, we're going to recommend that be around April 15th to May 1st. Somewhere in that time frame is when you can start, but you really have all the way until almost the end of June to get your plugs in the ground and get them established before winter hits. Now, I'll go back to that image that I didn't really explain too much, but if there is a downfall of your warm season lawn, as you see that brown lawn, I put that image up there because straw colored lawn is what you're going to get with a warm season lawn, which is why a lot of people go with a ryegrass. So I grabbed a bag of ryegrass because, again, it's got this label on the back. And ryegrass, this one is going to be pure seed 98% annual ryegrass. It says variety not stated because it doesn't really need to be known what variety it is. Most ryegrasses are pretty basic and simple. Other crop seed 1.26%, inert matter 0.53%, weed seeds 0.21%, noxious weeds none found. Germination rate 90%. Tested 6 of 2022. Sell by date is 9 of 2023. So very, very long life on this. I usually say ryegrass, the first time you do it might be the last time you do it. Now, you might say, hey, I want to do a summer grass, but my grass looks horrible or it's all dirt. I need to put something down. Ryegrass might be the answer for you because it grows fast. It will be mowed pretty much all winter long. So if you don't love to mow your grass or you don't want to pay a lawn guy to mow your grass all winter long, ryegrass is not your best option. Let some weeds grow in there, save it for next year, and we'll put a summer lawn in then. But you've got lots of options here in the Hampton Roads area. It's important to read your label on your bag. It's so, so important because all of that information in there, let me grab my bag back here, all the information that you really, really need to know, we can tell you all the other details. And again, I'm not as worried about where you get the grass seed. Of course, I want you to shop here, but that label, those white labels, are really where all the important information is on your grass seed. And it's important to read those over, understand them, understand what you're actually getting in the bag. 7-pound bag of grass seed, 3.3 of it is actually seed. The rest of it's coating or fertilizer. So that is just the most important thing to me. So I think I spent around $30, $35 for this. So that's it's over $10 per pound. This is ours, this is $39.99, so it's $40, $10 more, but you're getting 5 pounds of actual pure grass seed, and it's great, and we know that the germination rate is gonna be high, and we know that it's been tested in this area, so we know we're gonna be successful with it. It's tested in this area for drought tolerance, disease resistance, and the ability to withstand foot traffic and sun and drought and all of those great things. Disease resistant, insect resistance, drought tolerance, those are our 3 main factors, and that's why we put these 3 grasses in there because they're all in Virginia Tech. the Virginia Cooperative Extension's Category 1 list. And so it's very, very important to kind of do your research, understand what's in the bag. And that's really what I wanted to talk to you about today, was understanding what kind of grass seed you're getting. Make sure you get the right type of grass seed. Make sure it doesn't have any fillers that you don't want. And if you want to get pure grass seed, you can always come in here to the garden center and pick those up. So let's see if we have another question. I think I saw one more come up. Wish I lived closer to you. You have so much at your garden center and I could use the grass seed. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. I haven't really looked at grass seed near me. So yeah, check out some local garden centers nearby you. You might be able to go to some of our friends at Homestead Garden Center. I know they're not in Baltimore, but they're probably fairly close. They're probably not too far of a drive from you. But Homestead Garden Center is a great one that you could check out. Check out a local garden center. If you can't get to our neck of the woods, if you don't live in our neck of the woods, go to a local garden center, ask them some questions, see what kind of grass seed they're carrying, and check that label. It's the most important thing you can do when you're purchasing grass seed. Make sure you look at it, make sure you understand it, and hopefully this helped you learn a little bit more information about how to pick the grass seed. And choosing the best grass seed for your lawn is very, very important to us and to you. It'll make you more successful. So I hope you all enjoy this. I hope you learned something new, and we hope to see you here in the garden center soon. Everybody, have a great day. Thanks.